Okay, then we will start. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Nice to see some of the faces from yesterday, and I think also some new ones today. Today we will present our experience. So we give a talk about how we can support digital transformation in healthcare as designers. And how we can really guide patients and their loved ones through what we call the jungle of healthcare, because that's what it can feel sometimes. So we are Joris and Laura, and we are both design and innovation consultants at COAS. We both really have a passion for the healthcare domain. That's why we are presenting this story to you today. But first, a little introduction about us personally. So here you see some pictures that are related to what I like to do in my life. So I am a designer, so I really like to solve complex challenges together with others, work on complex cases together. I'm from the Netherlands and I live in The Hague. So the picture below, I think I took it 2 weeks ago. Was very nice weather, and then I'm a lot of times on the beach. I like skiing, horse riding, and I really like to draw. So that's what you can also see over there.
Yeah, then me. So hi, I'm Joris. We work in Amsterdam. I live in Amsterdam. I really like to do societal projects, product design. Healthcare is one of them. On the top right, you see our great team. We had a nice couple of days last year. Besides doing design work, I also work part-time as a surf instructor. Yes, you can surf sometimes in the Netherlands, sometimes not so good. But still a lot of fun with a bunch of kids. I like doing adventure stuff, like going on big road trips or doing to the mountains. But yeah, we're not here for us today, so let's move on.
Yeah, first a little other introduction about COAS. So for the ones that were there yesterday, our release presentation, but for the ones that we are new to, so we work at COAS and we are a design and innovation agency. We are both based in Amsterdam, but we also have offices here in Berlin, in Oslo, and in Lisbon. So what our goal is, or what our mission is as COAS, is to help organizations and to support organizations to embrace new technologies, and thereby really help them to design experiences, products, and services that make digital life human. And next to that, our belief is really in a world made better by design. We really believe that design is the answer to solve many complex challenges that we are facing currently in society. And of course, we find a lot of those complex challenges in healthcare as well. And if I can speak for everyone from COAS, I think it's the thing that really drives us as a collective and that makes us get out of bed in the morning. So our talk today, will actually consist of 3 different steps or 3 different subjects. So first of all, we will set the scene and we will present you 3 challenges of digital transformation in healthcare. And these are challenges that are really based on our own experiences and things, we saw happening during our own projects. Then, to dive a bit deeper into those challenges, for each challenge we will present 1 case study, so 1 project we actually did related to that challenge. So 3 challenges and 3 cases. And finally, we will present our key takeaways, discuss our future role as designers together with you. But let's start with the topic and the context of our talk, because what we see is that digital transformation in healthcare really holds an immense promise. We all know, I think, that the healthcare system is currently quite under big pressure. We see that on the one hand, there is more and more demand for care because we are getting older, there is more chronic diseases, etc. But what we also see is that there's a growing shortage of healthcare workers. So having a shortage of healthcare workers and on the other hand an increase in demand of care, that's of course not a really good combination, and that's also why the current system is not always sustainable anymore. So we are really in need of digital solutions that can help us saving costs, enhancing efficiency, and also improve health outcomes. This is one of my favorite examples of a digital product service system that is implemented in a hospital in the Netherlands. to show you an example of, I think, a well-designed digital solution in healthcare. This is called the box, and it's literally a box with different self-measurement devices in there, so it's an e-health solution. And with the box, patients can do measurements at home. So, for example, cardiovascular patients, they get this box home, they can measure their own blood pressure, they can measure their steps, they can measure their ECG. And what you see is that for healthcare workers, this is a really efficient solution because they can do more consultations with their patients online, and they also receive continuous patient data instead of that they have to come all the time to the hospital to do this. So it really saves them time as well. And what we see on the patient side is that they can do these measurements at home. So it results in better measurements because they have less stress. They don't have to come to the hospital. And we also see that they have more insight in their own health, more control over their own health, and also therefore this can really improve their health outcomes. Just wanted to show this as a good example because I really like it. So it sounds really promising, but unfortunately what we see is that there are also a lot of challenges we are facing if we talk about digital transformation in healthcare. We as COES have been doing many projects over the whole spectrum of healthcare related to different topics. And today we summarize the challenges that we face there in 3 challenges and cases. So let me explain a little bit more about that. So looking at current challenges in healthcare from the patient, so really from the human perspective, so from the patient, but also from the care worker perspective, we first of all see that there are currently in society really high digital service standards that are often not met in healthcare. Of course, we are really used to the guidance of and the convenience of current commercial services that exist in our lives. Think about ordering groceries online, think about watching series on Netflix. It's all easy, it's all a clear process, you're well informed, you know what you can expect. But in solutions in healthcare, sometimes they are not even there. We see that, these kind of service standards are not really met, which is actually weird because I think we can say that if it's about your health, it's maybe the most important sector to do this well. Secondly, what we also see is that there is a risk of a poor patient experience when you create digital services. So digitalization is of course also about increasing efficiency and less personal contact with healthcare providers. So that can also really compromise the quality of care. So think about when you're not really visiting a healthcare worker or someone in person anymore. So there's really then a lack of a relationship there. And what we also see is that digital solutions are really not always the right design answer. What we see is that we as designers, but also our clients, are really thinking about, everything should be digital. Digital is the future. We want to create digital solutions, but we should really, of course, think from the needs of the actual user. And then digital is definitely not always the right design answer. And then an overarching challenge or thing that is returning in all these 3 challenges, and I think yesterday also many people discussed this topic, is of course the topic of accessibility. And we think that there is really a risk that digitalization can have a negative impact on the accessibility of healthcare. Because what we see in the Netherlands is that approximately 4 million individuals struggle with digital literacy, with language, but with using digital applications. So it's really challenging for every citizen to adapt to digitalization as well. So this was the first part of the challenges that we see, and now we want to illustrate each challenge with one example case that we did at COES. I think it's just nice to share our experiences, and you might also get some inspiration from it and our key takeaways, of course. So let's start with the first challenge, which is about high digital service standards are often not met in the healthcare sector. So how can we actually create accessible, intuitive, and informative digital services in healthcare? So imagine that one of your parents has to move permanently to a care home. You can imagine that's a really emotional situation, a really difficult situation. It's difficult for you as a son or daughter because, yeah, you've never experienced this before. You don't know what you can expect. You don't maybe have always the right information at the right moment. And on the other hand, of course, for your father or mother, it's a really hard situation because you have to leave your home behind where you maybe lived for many years. And then also imagine, as a son or daughter, that you didn't know you were responsible for providing clean clothes for your mother, so now and then. Then, yeah, you might find your mother one day just in her underwear on her room. Or imagine that you didn't know, that you had to be there when your father had to be moved from one room to the other. Then you might find him one day just on his own in the hallways. So unfortunately, these were all real examples of things that we heard by talking to, these elderly and also their family members. So that's why it was also really necessary to tackle this challenge. We learned that the process of moving to a permanent care home is really hard, that often family members don't know what they can expect. It's really chaotic, really emotional. And this was really a situation that needs to be improved. So that's why we joined forces with RAC. And RAC is a combination of different elderly healthcare organizations in Amsterdam. With them we really looked into how can we give these elderly and also their loved ones a soft landing when they are facing this difficult situation of moving permanently to a care home. So this was the main question to be answered. So how to support elderly and their loved ones in the transition of moving permanently to a care residence. And it was really our goal to make this as comfortable as possible and to really also give them the feeling of autonomy and into control during this process. So let me dive a bit into how we tackled this challenge. So the first step, of course, was to really deep dive into the context of this transition to a permanent care home. So what we did was many observations in different care homes, just looking with our own eyes how the situation was. And of course, we also did many interviews with family members, but also the elderly themselves, the healthcare workers in those elderly homes. And what we really did there was also using generative techniques in our interviews. Of course, these conversations could be really emotional, and this really helps us to have nice conversations with them and to make them really feel heard. And maybe what's also nice to explain here is that, of course, maybe people who do a lot of research with healthcare workers also know that they are often really short in time, and those design questions are not always high priority, but we really needed them in this process. So what we did was really connecting to them during their regular meetings they already set, and to really make sure we were visible in the care homes and to have regular meetings with them during the times that they were used to make sure they were involved throughout the whole process. So when we collected all this data, we did the observations, the interviews, we saw many things, so then we started structuring our insights. We created a customer journey, and this was really to summarize all the insights that we found, but also to communicate these insights with the actual care organizations and to think together, okay, this is the current situation, where can we find opportunities, how can we improve the situation? So that's really why we created this customer journey map, and we also used it in several co-creation sessions with the actual people working in these organizations. We again got a lot of insights, ideas, and finally we picked one concept that we started prototyping and testing in several design sprints. And finally, we created a solution, which I'm going to tell more about in a sec, and that's a platform that's now really live for both elderly and their family members. So the project resulted in a platform guiding people through all the steps of moving permanently to a care residence. And looking back at the challenge that this case was related to, so that the challenge of high digital service standards, we think this is really an accessible, an understandable, and an intuitive service that really guides the elderly and their family members through this difficult process. We have some learnings. First of all, we think that well-designed digital services really solid. It can empower patients and their loved ones to really reclaim control over their own future and to stay, to keep this feeling of being in control, to knowing what you can expect and to receive the right information at the right moment. We learned it's really only possible to do this with all the different stakeholders involved. The whole content of the website is based on input from all different stakeholders. But also the user of this website is of course not, it's also the elderly, but also mainly the family member. So it was really important to get an understanding of all the people involved to create this as smooth as possible. And lastly, we learned it's really important to, also work on accessibility, of course, so to make this information accessible but also understandable for almost everyone. So we didn't only create this touch point on the website, but we also created flyers and posters for in the care homes so that they could really find this website or also read the information offline. And what we also did is we paid a lot of attention to the content on the website. We made it in easy language. We used much imagery and even animations to really explain the whole process and all the steps involved well. So I think this is really a case that shows that especially in a critical healthcare context, it is really important to align with high digital service standards. You really have to do it well, but if you do this well, you can really make a lot of impact. Important to do this. So now I'm going to give the word to Joris, and we will present 2 more cases related to the challenges.
Yes, thank you, Laura. So moving on to the second challenge within digitalization in healthcare. Like Laura already explained, digitizing processes to make it more efficient can have an impact, of course, on the patient experience, on the customer experience. Moving on to that one. So over here you see our colleague Marieke. Last year she was 32 weeks pregnant and she was visiting Copenhagen with a bunch of friends. And suddenly she needed to go to the hospital to give premature birth in week 32, which is not really always planned. So she was in an unknown country where she didn't speak the language, she didn't know the hospital, she didn't know the doctor. Her husband was on a bachelor party in the Netherlands. There she was in a super stressful, highly emotional situation. And especially in these types of situations, you want to know what you need to do, what information you need to gather, and you want to have support for that. And that's actually where Eurocross comes in. Eurocross is an organization that has a worldwide support for medical support. It's a call center. So if you as a person or abroad and you need medical help, you call them and they guide you through the process of finding the right care, guide you through the process, do the payments, help you with the insurance. So they help around 40,000 patients a year in the Netherlands. So one of the challenges that patients face in this situation is that they get a lot of information from Eurocross. So the patient calls and gets all this information on what they need to do, what they need to get, and also information that they just receive from Eurocross. So they get overwhelmed in a super stressful, highly emotional situation. Second, these patients are always, they don't also have the overview of everything that's going on. They probably, Marieke never experienced something like this, so she was super overwhelmed by the whole experience. And a lot of other people are as well, so if you don't have the overview of what's going on, that can create stress, of course. On the Eurocross side, they have a customer support center. So what they noticed is that a lot of personal information was just shared over the phone. This type of information can also be shared digitally. And secondly, Eurocross also thought they needed to digitize this process because it was expected from them, from their customers, but also from other stakeholders. So we looked at the following challenge together at Eurocross. How do we improve efficiency of our services while maintaining customer satisfaction? Their Customer satisfaction was already super high because patients were very well guided by Eurocross. But yeah, they wanted to digitize. So Eurocross also said to us, be very sure that we don't lose the human touch in this service while digitizing it. So that was an interesting shift. So also having a look at the process we went into, we of course had an internal kickoff with all the relevant stakeholders of Eurocross and other relevant parties. We did research, of course, with patients who had such an experience in the last 6 months. So their experience was still super fresh, which is of course super relevant when you're doing customer research. We also joined their customer support center for a day. So we joined the people behind the calls, we listened to the calls, we observed their reaction, we saw what they were doing. And this really helped to get a better understanding of the context, not only from the patient side, but also from the organization side. Then, throughout all 3 cases, you will see a customer journey, that's service design. So we gathered all this research information in customer journey, and we discussed it with people from Eurocross, and we identified, again, opportunity areas for improvement. Before diving into ideation, we prioritized these opportunity areas because we actually wanted to build a digital solution. So there was no digital solution before we started this project. And the goal was, of course, to create a digital solution for them. So together with them, we created several MVP stages of this digital solution, and we went into 2 design sprints. So in these design sprints, together with Eurocross, we designed the digital touchpoints, and at the same time, we already collaborated with development to get things up and running. So once the design sprints were finished, they could start developing quite fast. So in the end, after 2 design sprints, there were some digital designs ready for development. What we always do with clients is, let me get to that in a bit. First, what we in the end came up with was a digital portal for patients, both for patients and Eurocross, to centralize the whole process and all information. This results, of course, for the patient to have a better overview of all the steps that needed to be taken, what Eurocross already was doing. They could find all the information that was being shared or being demanded from them. So they didn't have to care about remembering everything when Marieke was rushing to the hospital, giving birth to a 32-week-old baby. What we always do with customers, with our clients, we always keep in touch with them when we do projects. So after 3, 6, 9, 12 months, we have meetings, recurring meetings, to understand what was the impact of our work and how is it being implemented or not, and what are the challenges. So this allows us also to understand finally after for a year, for example, what the impact is of the work we've been doing. So what we saw here is that actually the solution created 25% less time spent per patient case from Eurocross side, but also from the customer support and from the customer side, Eurocross explained that the NPS that they were gathering throughout the year was increasing because the process was more efficient, it was more clear, and they didn't lose the digital touch. The human touch, sorry. So a couple of learnings about making sure that you keep the human touch in a digital service is human first. So what they did, every time a patient called, always the first point of contact was always a phone call, where Eurocross decided or anticipated and asked the patient, do you want the digital solution or do you want our phone call, like a more conventional solution? So people had actually a choice how they wanted to be helped and supported throughout this process. And secondly, because they didn't want to compromise on the human touch, didn't want to phase out the human touch in the digital solution, it was made super easy in the application to always phone Eurocross whenever you need it. Second, this is an interesting one, freeing up time. So what we saw is that actually by digitizing super easy tasks, this like sharing information, contact details, etc., or documents, this freed up time for Eurocross to actually have more human support for the patient, to have personal conversations about how are you actually doing, how are you coping, how can we support you even better. So that's a super interesting insight of how you can how digitalization can actually improve the human experience. And lastly, this one is already Laura shared. Observe, learn. So often in healthcare, people are busy. Observation is a very good research. We're still learning a lot. Moving on to the third challenge, or it's a challenge, we believe, because as designers, you design for needs and pains, and not because there's a digital solution available. So always make sure that you design for the needs that are at hand. So digital solutions might not always be the right designers. My father is a heart patient since 2004. He's taken several types of medicines. He has several types of chronic diseases, and he's been taking the medicine for like what is it, 1 or 2 years, the same medicine. And he gets a recurring prescription, and he goes to the pharmacy, and he stands at the desk at the pharmacy, and he receives different package, different colors, different look and feel pills, and he just doesn't understand what's going on. And pharmacies lacking a bit of explaining how actually what's going on and why he receives a different type of medicine. It just looks different, but of course the materials and the way it should work is the same. He left the pharmacy because he didn't trust it, went to his GP. He also took the GP explained that it's probably the result of a government or health insurance decision, because sometimes they prefer to switch to a different medicine. So he decided to not take his medicine for a while. And of course, it has a negative impact on his health. So he started noticing this. He went back to his GP, back to the pharmacy, and eventually had to take the switch. This is called the medicine switch. And this is happening not only to my father, but it's actually happening to 1 million people in the Netherlands a year. And what you see is that, this is of course very frustrating for the patient. So a couple of challenges from the patient side. They don't understand. They feel frustrated. They mistrust the new medicine, and this can result in not taking the medicine, which has a negative impact on the health insurance. On the pharmacy side, they don't know how to properly explain it. They don't know how to guide a conversation when there is an angry patient at their desk. So this leads to very stressful moments. Takes up a lot of time. So there is a lot of challenges in this switch from multiple stakeholders. So together with BNU and VGZ, BNU is one of the largest pharmacy chains in the Netherlands, and VGZ is the second largest insurance company. We looked at this change because one of the largest pharmacy chains dealing with a lot of medicine switches. So we looked at how can we improve the patient experience during medicine switches at the pharmacies. In the end, it wasn't only improving the patient experience, but also outcomes. So at the start, we of course did again research, with a lot of patients, and talked about the experience they had, but also with the GPs, what their experiences was with the medicine, and of course the pharmacy stuff. They have to deal with the moment they had to provide a switch. We created in the back, you see it there. There's like a customer journey again. That's a multi-stakeholder customer journey, which we deliberately chose for, because it allowed to to visualize how the experience of all these different stakeholders, how they interact, and at what moments they are crucial to better align them. And we discussed this multi-stakeholder journey with all the stakeholders in the room. We discussed the insights, and from all the different perspectives, they joined the session. And what this really helped is to get a better understanding of, okay, what is the GP actually experiencing? What is the patient actually experiencing? What is the pharmacy staff actually experiencing? It's created a lot of shared understanding for the whole situation. And it's a very good way to align between many stakeholders to eventually start creating solutions. So that's also what we did. This is just part of the room, but there's 50 or 40 people involved in this ideation session. In this ideation session, we designed solutions from changing policies, changing systems, and changing the actual experience at hand. And of course, after a while, we needed to prioritize what solution to focus on first. The urgency was super high, so they really wanted to deal with these changes, medicine switches, as soon as possible. So you can imagine changing policy not very fast. So they decided to move on to with the physical design kit. And they decided to move on to what's it called again? The medicine toolkit, the medicine switch toolkit. And from there on, we started doing designing. We started designing the actual physical elements, the guidance of how pharmacy staff should have a conversation, the stickers that they needed to put on the different type of medicine to better guide patients throughout this medicine switch. And we did focus groups together with pharmacy staff, together with patients, together with GPs. And this allowed us to iterate on the design and iterate it a couple of times. And eventually we run 2 pilots at pharmacies, 2 pharmacies, because we were debating, they had good connections and they were very interested in solving the solution, solving this problem. So we did 2 pilots. We actually did like a 0 measurement, so we measured the experience, positive or negative experience people had, both staff and patient, before using the toolkit. So we did that for a week. And then we introduced the kit. We had to introduce the pharmacy staff how to deal with this kit and how to use it. And then we also measured the impact of the kit for a week, and we compared the outcomes. This resulted actually in this toolkit, which I shortly already explained. So it's a visual. This is only part of it. So it's a more elaborate physical toolkit. This is a way for the pharmacy staff how to prepare, guide, and what to do after the medicine switch. So what you see here is also how can different types of people react when they come to your desk and they hear about the medicine switch. People can react aggressively, or very emotionally, or positively. And we design like how, as pharmacy staff, how should you respond to such a in such moments. Actually, the lady in the big said they were so happy with the result that they actually implemented this physical toolkit across all 400 pharmacies in the Netherlands, and it's being still used today. So that's a very cool outcome, of course, for us. A couple of learnings regarding designing physical instead of digital. The urgency was super high. Designing a digital product takes time. You need design, you need UX, you need development, etc., etc. Designing a physical toolkit takes less time. So there was a faster way to go into to solve the actual problem at hand. Second, accessibility. So a lot of these medicine switches they happen to elderly people who often have multiple types of medicine, and these elderly people they come to the desk and for them better to follow what's going on if they're guided in physical. Also, the whole medicine switch itself is physical. Then, of course, also the moment of truth. So, standing at the help desk is a physical experience and not digital. From experience to policy, so this is less about designing physical instead of digital, but it's super interesting that if you start designing for this problem at hand, the system and policy problems and challenges come to light. And by involving different stakeholders from policy level, also the organization to people at the pharmacy, for example, they understand that policy decisions are having an impact on day-to-day experience. So that's a great way to involve them and let them realize, hey, if we change policies maybe later on, we don't need to solve these problems at hand. At the very extreme.
Yes, okay, so these were the challenges that we've been facing and some cases illustrating some inspiration on how to overcome these challenges. For now, I just want to draw several conclusions on how we as designers actually have the superpowers to contribute to digital transformation in healthcare. So I have 5 superpowers that I will present briefly. First of all, we offer a fresh perspective. Of course, we are always collaborating with many stakeholders, with people actually working on the floor in the healthcare sectors. But the fact that they really have the expertise about the content and the context, and we really have the expertise on the process and really, work as we do as designers, We think that's a really nice combination to collaborate and work together. Why a fresh perspective helps? Yeah, we are not thinking in restrictions, in hurdles, but we see opportunities. So that's really useful in the healthcare context, of course. And also, since we're not doing healthcare projects only, at least we are not, we also learn a lot from other industries, from other clients, from other disciplines, and we can all apply that in our healthcare projects as well. Next, we make complex systems visual. We presented several customer journeys, I think. But for us, it's really a way to, of course, in the healthcare sector, you often have to deal with many stakeholders, and with complex processes, with legislation. And by making that visual, it really helps to, first of all, create a shared understanding of the system, of the context. It helps to communicate about the problems that are there. But it also really helps to spot the opportunities that are there and to start ideating on them. Next, we bring a co-creative multi-stakeholder approach. We never do this alone, of course, but we always work together. And again, we can create a shared understanding. We make sure that the things that we design actually work and actually can be integrated in already existing workflows. And the fact that we work in this way bottom-up instead of top-down also gives the clients or the people we work for ownership on the ideas. Also in the end, that works better for implementation, of course. Then we move quickly from big problems to tangible solutions. As designers, we're not afraid to just start making and testing. We learn by doing, and we fail fast and succeed sooner. So by moving quickly to solutions, just trying them out, testing them, learning from them, really allows us sometimes in a really short amount of time, sometimes weeks or even days, to come up with solutions for quite complex challenges. And lastly, we work human-centered. You probably have us speaking about patients a lot in this presentation, but actually we should be talking about humans. They are not only a patient, of course, someone lives in a context, has other things than only the disease. And this context is really important to consider when you design for them. So we don't see them as patients, we see them as human, and we really approach them holistically as a person, instead of only tunnel visioning on their disease or the problem they have as a patient. So to conclude this talk, we presented different challenges, different cases, 5 superpowers as designers. So by that, I think we can really show that as designers, we can help people and their loved ones to navigate smoothly through the digital or non-digital healthcare landscape. But we just foresee it in the future.
Yeah, indeed. So we've been talking a lot about use cases that solve experiences of patients. As designers, we're very good at improving these experiences. However, these are of course not the underlying problems. We're just putting bandage to the wounds. So we believe, as designers, we can have a much bigger impact, and by involving relevant stakeholders, also work together with people on a more systematic level or more policy design. So we believe this is also the future where designers can move into improving healthcare. And here is if you have questions, and also what your thoughts are about our role as designers in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. It's always great to see how one can improve people's life through design. And you mentioned that you don't only work in healthcare. So I'm wondering if you have noticed or know of some activities, techniques, processes that work better or worse for healthcare versus other industries.
I have an example that's not one of my own, but one that I was really inspired by, and that's how water management is done in the Netherlands. Once I visited a talk at the Dutch Design Week, and it was about someone who knew everything about how we manage water in the Netherlands. And of course, since we are on a location that is necessary, yeah, it was really interesting to see how we are really good in that, but somehow in the healthcare system we're not good in organizing all these processes. And this person had a whole talk on how to apply all the learnings and the things we do in water management to the healthcare sector. Yeah, so that's something I was really inspired by.
Yeah, I don't have an example.
Okay.
Thank you. First of all, I really appreciate all of the case studies that you have presented. I find a huge win when paper good wins over solutions. Such an exotic solution. But can you talk a little bit more about the Rock project, the one with the elderly home? It seems like there was a really special outcome out of that project, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the final solution, the design solution that you had created. Was it primarily just for the elderly or for the caregivers, or was it for both? And what parts of that design did they really find helpful and enjoyable?
Yeah, sure. So in the end, we created, the main sort of touch point or thing we created was this website. So it was really a platform explaining all the steps that are involved when you as an elderly have to move permanently to a care home. And of course, that information, we even saw sort of a shift from our key user from the elderly to the family members, because that information actually was relevant to them. And there they could just find all the things they need to know, they need to organize, and at what time frame they can expect different things. We made sure to explain everything in really easy language, but also really created some animation videos for people who are not that good in language to also understand all the things that need to happen. And that was.
You can visit the website yourself. What is that?
Yeah, I can give you the link to the website if you want. It's called stappenouderenherstel.nl. Then you can have a look if you want.
Okay, I got a question connected with this topic, because you mentioned about the superpowers, and one of the designer superpowers. And as you probably know, the healthcare projects are pretty difficult, especially to understand patient needs, but the area is also very, sensitive. And how you deal with this? I mean, how you deal with this problem, especially in a background of professional burnout.
Professional what?
Burnout.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, what we often do, because you're right, that these are often emotional situations and can also really be emotional conversations, and we work a lot with generative techniques. So that actually means that you let someone make something and then share the story behind the thing that you created. So for the one you're interviewing, so for the participants, it really helps them to prepare for such an interview and to really just create something to express their feelings, because it can also be really hard to express these emotional feelings. And for us, it's really something to really dive into the needs that are not that obvious, so really into latent needs. So that's what we do.
A couple of examples with generative research techniques: Playmobil, Lego, letting them create a small diary about their week, creating a collage, talk about it. You name it. You can be super creative in generative research techniques. It allows them to talk not about them, but about them.
I have a question. Thank you both for that fantastic talk. It sounds like Ku's doing some amazing stuff. There are 2 points. One, where you talked about multi-stakeholder, your experience mapping. There are multiple stakeholders which have multiple responsibility. Blurred line between an experience map and a service blueprint. And then at the end, your sentiment was how can we broaden our impact through social design, through systems. As designers that are predominantly working on digital touch points, I'm really interested to know how you extend your influence and ensure accountability where you see that there's a policy that needs to be changed, or where there's a system that needs to be changed, or something that's offline, something that goes beyond your typical remit. I'm really interested to understand how you pin those people down and make them accountable, or influence them to do the work that you've understood that you need to do.
Yeah, I think that's a super relevant question, because I believe that is actually where we're going to have the biggest impact as designers. Well, overall, but of course also designing the real solution at the end. So throughout this process, indeed, we created accountability of the people more on a higher level in the organization when designing these policies. So we just, in this room full, in the room full 40, 50 people, at the end, we put a poster on and we asked, like, okay, these challenges, who would like to be involved? And people just stick their name on it, and then we knew. So people could also just not do it. But we saw that actually policymakers were progressing with these insights in eventually also changing this policy. But that was over a longer period of time.
One more question.
Yeah, my question is more research-centered. You said a lot about observing the environment first and then going into the design process. If I think about this in Germany and also Europe, I think we have very big data security policies and stuff. Did you have that as an obstacle when going there? And how did you went about it? How did you still convince the organizations to do the extra work?
Yeah, a super relevant question. I think everyone here is dealing with that, right? We had the luck in all of these projects that we had an ambassador within that organization that really was like trying to solve this challenge. So she or he was fixing everything for us, basically. But also we work with organizations that recruit these patients for us, for example. Indeed, GPs and pharmacy stuff is a bit more difficult, but luckily we had this good collaboration with our clients. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely helps.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we have a huge round of applause to Joris and